The following content has been generated with artificial intelligence under minimal human supervision. The data presented may contain errors or inaccuracies. The opinions expressed in this content do not necessarily reflect the vision, position, or values of DigiAll. We recommend verifying critical information with additional sources before making decisions based on this content.
Welcome to DigiAll Tech News. Today is Thursday, June 25th, 2026. I'm Kylie Brooks, and this is where technology becomes clear and engaging. Anthropic is accusing Alibaba-linked operators of running what it calls the largest known distillation attack against Claude. Chamath Palihapitiya says the AI jobs apocalypse is being overhyped, arguing that technology usually multiplies work rather than erases it. Qualcomm is buying AI software startup Modular for nearly $4 billion as it tries to loosen Nvidia's grip on developers. An HSBC survey finds that wealthy investors are using AI tools, but still lean on human advisors for final decisions. A US House bill would make big AI data center builders pay for the power infrastructure their projects require. Let's start with Anthropic, because this is not just a story about model security. It is about whether frontier AI companies can protect the value inside their systems once those systems are exposed through ordinary chat interfaces. Anthropic says operators affiliated with Alibaba and its Qwen AI lab used more than 28.8 million exchanges across almost 25,000 fraudulent accounts between April 22nd and June 5th to extract Claude capabilities. The company described the campaign in a June 10th letter to Senators Tim Scott and Elizabeth Warren ahead of an AI hearing and said the goal was to train less capable models on Claude outputs to speed progress toward its advanced Mythos preview capabilities. Alibaba has not responded to requests for comment, and the allegation is based on Anthropic's own detection, so this is still an accusation rather than a public finding from both sides. But the scale matters. Anthropic previously disclosed smaller operations linked to Chinese labs, including DeepSeek, Moonshot AI, and Minimax. And now it is telling lawmakers the activity is becoming more intense and sophisticated. In practical terms, distillation is the shortcut problem in AI. If a rival can learn from a stronger model's answers at industrial scale, the boundary between using a service and copying its capabilities gets much harder to police. That is why this lands directly in the larger US-China debate over AI intellectual property, export controls, and whether private labs should be sharing threat intelligence with government agencies. Now to the future of work debate, where Chamath Palihapitiya is pushing hard against the most dramatic version of the AI displacement story. Speaking on the Axios show with Dan Primack in Redwood City, the Social Capital CEO and All-In co-host argued that predictions of AI and robotics eliminating work ignore how past technology shifts have played out. His basic point is simple. People will still need shelter, food, clothing, bathrooms, and the businesses around them, even if more robotics and AI enter the picture. He also argues that new technology expands the number of tasks humans can do over long periods, rather than ending the need for human work altogether. That view lines up with other more measured signals in the debate, including an MIT paper that framed AI automation as a rising tide rather than a crashing wave, and Sam Altman's comment that he was wrong about AI wiping out entire job categories. Here's the question I think listeners are really asking. Does rejecting an apocalypse mean there is nothing to worry about? Not exactly. Palihapitiya is making a qualitative, historical argument, not giving a precise forecast for which workers are disrupted, how fast, or who benefits first. And because he runs an AI startup, his skepticism of doom narratives also sits inside the investment side of this boom. The useful takeaway is that the labor story may be less about work disappearing completely, and more about whether people, schools, companies, and policymakers can adapt quickly enough as tasks are reshuffled. Qualcomm's Modular deal is a very direct bet that the next AI chip war will be fought in software, not just silicon. Qualcomm says it will acquire Modular in an all-stock transaction valued at nearly $4 billion, or $3.92 billion based on Qualcomm's last closing price, by issuing up to 19.2 million shares to Modular's equity holders. The deal is expected to close in the second half of 2026. Modular's pitch is that developers can run AI model inference across different chips without writing processor-specific code. Inference is the stage where a trained model actually serves answers, and that is becoming a huge battleground as companies try to make AI cheaper and more flexible to deploy. The strategic target here is Nvidia's CUDA ecosystem, which has kept millions of developers tied closely to Nvidia hardware and helped push Nvidia's valuation above $5 trillion. Qualcomm CEO Cristiano Amon framed the deal as a move toward developer-friendly, horizontal platforms that give customers more choice across compute environments. The trade-off is execution. Qualcomm still gets most of its revenue from smartphone chips. It is trying to expand into data centers with its own AI processors, slated for shipment by year-end, and it is reportedly in separate talks to acquire Tenstorrent for $8 to $10 billion. Investors were not instantly convinced. Qualcomm shares fell about 4% in late-morning trading after the announcement. The key test will be whether Modular can stay credibly cross-vendor while owned by Qualcomm, because neutrality is exactly what makes the software layer valuable. In wealth management, AI is clearly being adopted, but HSBC's survey suggests it has not replaced the trust layer. The bank surveyed about 10,000 affluent and high net worth individuals across 10 markets. 62% named financial professionals and institutions as their main source of investment ideas, and 37% said human experts had the greatest influence on their ultimate investment choices. That was 3 times the share who credited AI. Younger investors are still using the tools heavily. 86% of Gen Z and 82% of millennials reported using AI for financial and investment decisions. The pattern is interesting. Gen Z is using AI mainly to identify risks and avoid mistakes, while millennials are using it to speed up research and analysis. Nearly half of all respondents said AI increased their confidence and willingness to take calculated risks, especially among younger cohorts and investors in India, the UAE, Malaysia, and Hong Kong. But when money is actually on the line, respondents still value reassurance, judgment, strategic expertise, accountability, and the ability to catch mistakes in AI outputs. In practical terms, AI is behaving more like a research accelerator than a replacement fiduciary. The challenge for banks and advisors is to integrate that speed without making clients feel that responsibility has been handed off to a black box. Finally, the politics of AI infrastructure are getting more concrete because the costs are showing up in the power system. The US House began considering the Ratepayer Protection Act on Wednesday, June 24th. The bill would require state utilities to create a large load standard, forcing data center builders to cover the costs of grid upgrades, new power generation, transmission lines, and related infrastructure needed for their electricity demand. The sponsors are Representative Gabe Evans, a Republican from Colorado, and Representative Kathy Castor, a Democrat from Florida, with backing from House Energy and Commerce Chair Brett Guthrie. Guthrie's argument is that families and small businesses should not be left paying the bill for new AI development, even if society eventually benefits from those innovations. The measure targets operators including Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, and xAI, and it arrives as voters in multiple states push back against data centers that they blame for higher utility bills ahead of the 2026 midterms. Several major tech firms have already signed the Trump administration's Ratepayer Protection Pledge, signaling willingness to fund new electricity production. The bigger issue is cost allocation. AI companies want speed, utilities need reliability, and households do not want to subsidize private infrastructure through monthly bills. This bill still has a long legislative road through committee, the House, the Senate, and the President's desk, but it shows how AI's physical footprint is becoming a mainstream political fight. Today's through line is accountability around AI. Anthropic is asking who gets to learn from frontier models at scale. Palihapitiya is challenging the most extreme labor fears without ending the transition debate. Qualcomm is trying to give developers more choice beyond one dominant chip ecosystem. Investors are telling wealth managers that AI can help, but judgment still matters. And lawmakers are asking whether the companies building AI data centers should pay more directly for the power grid they need. Different stories, same pressure point. The technology is moving fast, and the systems around it are being forced to prove they can keep up. Thank you for staying informed with DigiAll Tech News. We'll be back with more updates as they develop.